Hi, I'm Sophia Haber-Brock, and this is A Year in Quarantine. Today I'm joined by Mr. St. Clair. So, a year ago, did you expect COVID to last for this long?
No, in fact, as a science teacher, I should have been more aware of the science. I strictly remember telling students, "We'll be 2 weeks. We'll be home for 2 weeks, and then we'll be back. Everything will be under control." So at first, I just in my own little world, I underestimated it, and I shouldn't have, just in terms of the scope and the severity of it all. I didn't expect to be home like the whole fourth marking period last year, and then how we've been doing it this year. I mean, I'm wearing a mask. It's like I'm ready to rob my classroom or something.
How long did it take you to adapt to wearing masks and social distancing and doing all of that?
I think that I was pretty good with. I mean, the social distancing. You know, having a high school and a middle school age children at home, I saw it was tough for them. It was tough for me to just go not be able to go hug my mom, my see my parents. And if I did, I would hang out on their porch, and they would be inside. That was tough, but I mean, we adapted quickly. It wasn't like, oh, I'll start doing that tomorrow. Um, and in terms of for me as a teacher, I got into it right away. Like that weekend, our last day of school was a Friday. I brought a lot of stuff home, and I was filming labs in my basement, getting ready just to. We didn't really know how the school day was going to, how it was going to be approached a year ago. So I had filmed all these labs that I wanted to do, and I had them ready. I put them up on YouTube just so when I did the lab, I was giving the link to whomever, whatever class needed it. So in terms of, it was tough. I was worried about toilet paper. You know, I was worried about getting masks because I didn't have a mask. I was wearing a bandana, and then my mother-in-law, she sewed some masks for us. Um, so that was great to have. It was hard to get paper masks. It was hard to get paper products of any kind. So I was a little worried about, toilet paper and paper towels and masks, but everyone kind of adapted to it. It was a quick adaptation because if you don't, you're going to be in trouble.
What was the importance of routine this year?
Routine is a very going in the last year, routine is very, very important. And I see it, here it is, it's after 2 o'clock, but I found myself staying in school, having the luxury of being able to be in the building grading papers. So I'm not bringing them home. So the routine at home isn't bombarded with the routine of school. A year ago, when the assignments had to be handed in at 11:59 p.m., I would sit there with my computer waiting for kids, especially if it was a test, waiting for students to submit work. And then, I set the assignment at 7, and then at midnight, I'm still grading things. So the the work life balance was out of whack in the beginning. And I'm sure, I mean, I saw it with my wife. My wife has been working from home, exclusively for about 2 weeks longer than we have. If you don't have that, you have to learn to put it down. Put your work down so you can enjoy the time with your family, which has been one of the wonderful parts of this quarantine.
Yeah, what were some of the positive parts?
My wife works in the city, so during a normal springtime where my daughter plays softball, my son plays baseball, there's band, there's gymnastics, there's a job, there's all these things. My wife, gets home at 7 o'clock at night, and everyone would kind of eat dinner at different times whenever it was convenient to a schedule. Then all of a sudden, everyone's schedules opened up, and getting a routine of like my kids they're still good about it. Wake up in the morning. Last year, they would do their work and they would then enjoy their day. Now they try to get their work done at 11:30 for the high schooler until 2 when he goes to football, or when he went to football or goes to baseball. My daughter tries to get her work done. right after Thompson ends. Um, but that's been great where we've been together. It's mostly it's been, we're getting on each other's, nerves every once in a while. But I mean, that's been wonderful. Everything kind of slowing down has been wonderful. Um, Now in the last, 6, 8 months for my own kids, their sports activities started to build up again. And it's just nice to go to a baseball game, sit outside, watch a baseball game, watch a softball game, not have to, kind of put things in perspective like, hey, you didn't have this. You didn't have this in the springtime. My son's first baseball game, I told him, I said, in the summer, so no matter what happens, you're on the field. It doesn't matter if you went 0 for 4 or you had 3 hits and made an error, made a great play. You're on the field. You're doing what you love. And that's kind of what it's a different mindset. And that's been a wonderful thing because it kind of, hey, you appreciate what you didn't have, not being able to see family. And then so when you get to hang out with them, even if it's just sitting in a backyard, you're still 6 feet from each other. This is great. I love this, how we're able to converse right now. And, I've used Zoom to meet with extended family around holidays, but nothing beats being face to face, whether it's in a classroom or with your family, you know. So every holiday, as little as it, as few people are together now, it's better than a year ago at Easter. It was my wife and my kids and us. We didn't see anybody. We still got dressed up like it was a fancy Easter thing, but, so that's kind of what I appreciate. I'm babbling here. Appreciate the little things that it's almost like you take advantage of it. When you walk into a classroom, saying hi, Sophia, as you walk in is something that I've said tens of thousands of times, but just, and you're only in, 1 or 2 days a week. It's different seeing you walk into class and saying hi to you as opposed to, hey, Sophia, you're on Google Meet right now, kind of a thing. Little things like that is what I've learned to become more appreciative of stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, me too. I feel like last year I definitely took advantage, like you were saying, took advantage of the fact that I got to be in person. Now I just go like 2 days a week. It's like
yeah,
taking every moment.
yeah, exactly. It's weird. Like if I were to ask you when you were a freshman or the beginning of your sophomore year, a year ago, not even a year ago, but like a year and a half ago, that you would embrace walking in and seeing your classmates in person, you know, it's weird, but it's kind of cool how you can see that and not still be like, oh man, we're this school year, it sucks, we're not like this anymore. Hey, at least if you and your family decide for you to be in, and I respect anyone's decision on full 5 days or 2 days a week or full virtual, it's for you to appreciate who you see when you see them, you know,
Yeah, definitely. And
because I'm sure there are some kids who you probably haven't seen all year.
yeah.
And like end of the alphabet, people who are in the same cohort schedule you haven't seen them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What is that like teaching students that you haven't even met?
I had a student, and here it is. It's the middle of April, right? Start of the fourth marking period. And I had a student who just switched last week to being in person for 5 days. He was full virtual up until last week, and his icon was always, his camera was never on. So when he came in, I said, and I had to ask what his name was. It's April 10th or what, April 9th. Oh, hi, I'm so and so. And that, like, as a teacher, that's embarrassing to me that it's April and I still, like, that's the bad thing of not having everyone in. Like, I like to get to know the kids on not just, hey, Sophia is a chemistry student, but I watched your interviews that you gave last year, and like you're into TV production news. That's a cool thing that in this year, it could just go right over my head. And I think that's happening not purposely. It's just the way of it's hard to get to know people on a screen.
And I actually just talked to Miss McGowan, and she was saying that it's good that she teaches like literature because it's about writing, and she like kind of got to know her students because they wrote things about themselves.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
how was it? Because you teach chemistry, so it's
That's
all
a that's
about
a tough thing to do. That's a really tough thing to do
yeah,
because what are you writing from? You're writing chemical formulas. You're writing, hey, how to calculate the voltage in a cell, you know. It's really just, practice and here's a skill and here's a it's not like I would love like that's where normally I'm not a writer. I've never been. Um, so like this is where I would appreciate being if I was an English teacher, exactly like what Miss McGowan said, you get to know people through their creativity. Or if you were an art teacher, if you taught, painting and drawing or Miss Kuzman or Miss Skabinski's classes, like you get to know the students through their artwork or, Mr. Isherwood or Miss Lyons and the band, like these or like the art, like your personality comes through, and that's always has been a drawback of teaching a science. You don't like the your personality doesn't ooze out of your work unless of course we were doing something and you created a video. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, and you created like a video presentation, like, oh, I can see where her passion is. You know what I mean? So that's been tough. That's been tough.
I think you do a great job,
I do appreciate that.
and I guess that just like depends on the person too, like
I
teaching
guess
style and.
my son calls me the small talk mayor of Middletown because wherever I go, I'll wind up talking to somebody, and usually I embarrass my children, but that's what a father does.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, exactly. You agreed to that very, very quickly.
yep. What is it like teaching in person, but also having to teach kids online?
I hope, and I act like it, and maybe I play it off. I try to keep it the same. So if I'm talking, like I'll be pacing in front of the classroom. And if you're home, I may, and if I have a Jamboard up and then we're trying to go through the work, but if you see me on camera, I'm still walking, I'm pacing, I'm moving like I would if everyone was in person. But every once in a while, I have to catch myself and I look into the camera because I have the webcam up. But then sometimes I look at the screen. So on camera is just the top of my head. So like I try to, I try to be equitable, but without thinking about it. And it's tough. Like it's easier now that there's more kids in the room. It was tough in the beginning of the year in our class. Michael and Lauren were the only two in person for like the second half of the alphabet, when they would be in, and that was tough because there was 22 kids on screen. So I found myself talking more to the camera, you know. I don't know. What do they say on the stage? You don't talk to the camera where you don't, you just act like you're in character. You don't look at the camera. I don't know.
And what are some like positive? I know you already said this, but
Yeah.
what are some positives and negatives of like this style of teaching?
The negatives is that normally you and I, when you're in the classroom, I can tell if you're on task. I can tell if you're engaged. And when I mean engaged, doesn't mean just raising your hand. And you volunteer, so that's not what I'm saying. But like I can tell if you kind of zone out or stare out of the window, when you're in the classroom. But when you're home and that camera's off, I don't know if I'm talking to just the people in the room, and if I don't know if there's no one behind the camera. You know what I mean? Behind the icon. That's been a negative. The positive is it has gotten me out of my comfort zone. I've been teaching now. This is ending my 23rd year as a teacher, and in this last year, it has really forced me to. I never used Jamboards before. I never used a lot of technology. It was really more like what I taught on the board. You know, I had a very old school approach to AP, especially AP chemistry, because I'm trying to get a certain amount of material by a certain date. Um, in this last year, I have really become more comfortable on camera. Even if I'm making a video about teaching how to do something, I've become more comfortable with using technology, using Google Forms. We talked the other day. I'm still trying to find the easiest way to give a test, where because it's hard to write with all the symbols and the math, it's hard to type it in. That's one of the drawbacks, and I'm still trying to find the best way to do it. But I guess it's a good thing. Like it keeps us old dogs still looking for new ways. My mom and my dad were both teachers, and they always say, like, I don't know how I would be able to do it. My mom just retired maybe 3 or 4 years ago. She's like, I would never be able to teach the way that everyone else is teaching right now. So I guess it's keeping me young. It's keeping me from being too old. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to switch it up sometimes.
Exactly, exactly. Like and I think if we ever get to the point, and I hope it's soon, knock on wood, that we have everyone in class and we have, you know, that I don't that I keep moving forward with the technology, because that's been something that I've been wanting to do, and I've been taking, like, dipping my toes in the shallow end of the pool. And then last March, it was like someone pushed me into the deep end, which is a good thing. It kind of got me used to the waters, if you will, to keep the analogy going.
And what are some other changes that you've had to use this year that you'll continue to use in the future?
I like the fact that what I'm gonna start to do is I'm gonna start to, like, things that I teach, and I get into it and I start talking really, really fast, and I get that. When I was doing this yesterday, because it was a rainy day, and I know for, like, your class tomorrow, I'm going to be missing because I'm getting my shot. But I kind of explained some of the homework problems in on a video. So rather than going, like, even if we don't go over every problem, you can still get my explanation without it taking up class time. And you as a student can watch what you choose to watch, not sit there. All right, I know this problem. Let me sit and wait until we get to the one I had a question for. It's like I'm trying little things like that, um, where I want to keep using the technology in terms of test taking. Once I find something that I really am comfortable with, and that's good for both me and for the student, I want to use that, because I think, like, even with our shorter classes this year, we're at the same point where I would be any other year because of not using a block for a take a test. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Doing more, what I hope to keep doing in the future is exploring for better ways to present the stuff. Because even from my 1A to my 5B class, from today to tomorrow, I may look for a different way of approaching it. Or for my Chem 1 kids, hey, I found this video that might explain it a little more concisely than what I did yesterday. And that's something I should do all the time, but it's kind of forcing the hand.
Yeah. And what about personally and like your family life and stuff?
It has taken. My son plays football at South. He's on the baseball team at South, and I went to a lot of games. I went to the football games, and I see parents who are so wrapped up in what their kids do on the field. And I think, and I kind of, my thought process kind of changed as my son entered his freshman year. Football doesn't go on forever. He has no plans of playing college, and I've loved watching him play football. I love watching my daughter do her gymnastics, and I've had one chance to do it this year, and I sat back and I smiled. And I look at other parents, and I'm not judging them, but they are so wrapped up in the performance that they're not appreciating what their kids are doing, appreciate the work they put in. And I think that's something, and my son, he's a junior now, and my daughter's in eighth grade, so she's getting into high school. So it's, you know, gone is the gone is the rat race of trying to worrying about getting from here to here and here. Everything's kind of slowed down a little bit. That's what I'm appreciating more with my kids. Hanging out with my wife, more than what we would normally do because she would travel a lot for work. She doesn't have to do that anymore. Her work, she makes commercials, and they've adapted to doing remote commercial shoots where she's watching it from home. She's not getting home at 7 o'clock at night, 7:30 at night, and then having to do more work. Appreciating family time, appreciating seeing neighbors. Like we've gone on walks a lot more. We're meeting neighbors. Every day I'm out walking all the time, and I'm stopping, and I stop and talk to whomever. Just I normally they are around the corner. I might not have talked to them, but now, hey, the neighbor who lives behind my house, I've talked to him more in this last 2 months than I have in the 6 years that we lived there. So again, little things is what I'm taking to appreciate it.
Yeah, and I actually interviewed the mayor a few like last week or something, and I was talking to him, and he was like, he brought up like the point that even though something so isolating like this pandemic, it truly
Yeah.
like united people. And
Yeah.
he was talking about generally in like Middletown, but it's just nice to hear like how families have come together and like
Yes.
the neighbor thing. That's
Yeah. And I know like a year ago, the mayor was involved in this, and they had like so I don't know, they filmed, like everyone sent in footage, and my kids did it too, where we had a catch. The whole town had a virtual game of catch, where all we did was I videotaped my son threw my daughter a baseball. She caught it and then threw it this way. But then the footage was all spliced together. So it was, 4 or 5 minutes of kids and grown-ups, all ages, all just having a catch. And it ended with the mayor and with Dr. George. They were the last two, and they had something to say. And it was a really, really nice thing. I loved the birthday drive-bys, you know, and something my daughter is her heart is so big. A year ago, beginning of April is my nephew's birthday. She decided we couldn't, it was right during the shutdown, we couldn't get together for his birthday. So what she did, all of the cousins, they sang, and he's a big Beatles fan. So everyone sang the birthday Beatles song. You say it's your birthday, right? You know that song. I'm not doing it any justice, but all the cousins made a video of them dancing to that song, and she put it together. And then for Liam's birthday, we sent him the video, and it was so touching because at that point, that was 3 weeks, and this kid's in second grade at the time. You can't see your friends, you can't see your family, and that turned into everyone for all the cousins for a year got a birthday video of some kind, some song with their little kids. It was like a Moana song, whatever their favorite song was at the time. Um, and everyone just put something together, and then made a video, sent it to my daughter, and she sent it to them. And now the year has passed, everyone got a video. She didn't do it again. It's not a continuous thing, but like the birthday drive-bys. um, you hear me talk, I'm a horrible singer, but my sister's birthday last year, I drove to her house and I sang happy birthday from her driveway. you know I would never have thought to do that 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So goofy stuff like that. Like I like that sense of community, in good and bad. Like I've been part of a couple of funerals in this past year. And even though we haven't been able to be close, we found ways to be close. And I think, that's personally, professionally, um, I think that's very important. The mayor's a smart man.
yeah. And what are you looking forward to after the pandemic is over?
A, having a full class. And I noticed just about a year ago, because today is April 12th, so March 12th, more kids were allowed to be back in the building. And the vibe of a normal St. Clair class started to come back. There's a little bit more like going off on tangents, right? A little bit more of that, because when it's everyone's on camera, we're just trying to get the work done. I'm looking forward to that. And that's how everyone kind of gets to know each other a little bit more. I'm looking forward to being more, being closer with people, but still having that appreciation because you know what it was like during the pandemic. Um, I'm looking forward to not having to wear this mask all day long, but I understand that it might go on for a while. Um, so things like that in the classroom, I'm looking forward to having the skills we're all forced to adapt to now, but with the freedom of being more personable. As family, I am looking forward to being busy again. I'm looking forward to driving from baseball to getting dinner and then gymnastics and this and this and then going to seeing family. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to um, being able to sit in a room with my family and not having to worry about who who were they hanging out with in the back of your mind, right? So I mean, not to be worry free, but once everyone has the opportunity, if they choose to get the vaccine, that anxiety might be too strong of a word, but just to come down a little bit, but with in the back of your mind, say, hey, we can't let our guard down too much, you know. How about you? What are you looking forward?
Oh, oh my gosh, turning the tables on me.
Yeah, I know,
Um,
right?
um, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. Like I
Uh,
used what?
can I ask you a question? Have you started visiting colleges yet?
No, I haven't. That's something that I want to do. I'll probably end up doing it like this summer or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's weird because we did it a couple things with my son during spring break. That was weird. So, like, I hope for you that when you can go and visit and get a good feel for the place, if you know that is right for you, I hope you can find that. Same thing with my son and any of you know the seniors now, the juniors who are just starting this thing. I hope that's you can get that feeling without having to feel guarded. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And I don't know. I'm trying to think of other things, like getting to see I don't know, like traveling, I guess, and like getting to
Yeah.
see my friends that I'm not like I don't really see the like friends that I'm friendly with, but not really close with. I haven't
A
really.
year a year ago, I asked a student of mine, or my students, like one of the like we had to do like a remember last year you had to like do something to prove that you were in class. Like I put up a Google form question every day, and one was what do you miss most about school? Because this was maybe a month, maybe two, maybe it was around Memorial Day, maybe 2 months into the shutdown. And someone said, I miss my school friends, not your core crew, right? But the kids who you are friendly with, who you just see during school, because there's a lot of them. Like you're not best friends with everybody, but like, hey, I've been friends, with so and so since elementary school, but I don't see we're in different circles. I don't see them anymore. And in school, we always were in the same class. We were always in the same math class together. And now I don't. We may be in the same class, but I don't see them.
Do you have that with teachers? Like, do you have your teacher friends? Like,
Yes, we do. Like Mr. Silvestri and um, Mr. Coppola, who retired a few years ago, and Mr. Folks was in it for a while, Mr. Drazel, and some gym teachers. We're in a fantasy baseball league together and a fantasy football league together, and we would always have the draft at someone's house. We don't do that anymore, so like I miss that. Um, there are a few teachers who, because we aren't seeing each other, I have a few text change with some teachers, which is pretty funny, especially by hearing from you, like, wow, teachers text each other. Yeah, but yeah, like there's a few There's a couple teachers at the end of the school year who always have a big barbecue, and anyone's invited who wants to come. And it's a great way to see the teachers not in a faculty meeting setting. Um, so like I miss that. I miss seeing, this year when the weather's nice, there's been a few of us, we've sat outside and eat lunch, which has been a wonderful thing. Um, where I see teachers who I don't normally would see because they're in the history department. But we eat lunch for those 45 minutes. We're outside, and it's nice. Like that's what I'm hoping will continue to do in some form or fashion, even when we're in full days of school. I'm hoping that as the teachers, we still can get together and just eat lunch for, outside, that kind of thing. So maybe when we have lunch, we can use the courtyards and say, hey, everyone, this is where we're going to hang out, because I keep my stadium chair in my car. We all go to our car, get our chairs out, and we sit up right out in front of like where the school buses pick all the kids up.
And that's
Yeah.
something so like tiny that you just really, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's like
Another,
a theme for this interview.
yeah. It's little things that you learn to appreciate. Like a year ago, and this is something Mr. Lynn and I talk about, like the labs we've done, like one day right before vacation, we cleaned up a lot of glassware. And for years, because I've had so many kids hanging out in my room, I've given, and you're missing out on it this year, I would give extra credit to come in and wash the glassware and organize it back in the drawers. Like this is the first time in years that I've had to do my own dishes. I've been giving out extra credit points to go do all my, put my glassware together. But I miss the pockets of kids who would come in and hang out in my room during lunchtime, because the conversation would naturally come through. Sometimes I'd help with some chemistry, but there'd be like pockets of kids all using my room as a place to eat lunch and hang out. I miss that. I miss that, just the buzz of kids, and I'm not, it's not cafeteria duty for me. But like I miss that. And again, it's the connection kind of a thing.
And you have Mr. Lind, right, as like a
Yeah.
student teacher.
Yeah.
Was that last year too, or just this year?
He was maybe 3 years ago when he first went into the education, because he didn't start, I don't think he started as an education major. So but when he was at Brookdale sends, before they do student teaching, he was a student observer. So he would come to my class once a week for so many months and just watch, probably get, hey, I know I'm not going to do this, and I know I'm not going to do this kind of a thing. But he would just observe what the classroom was like. He was supposed to be my student teacher last spring, like starting March 20th through the end of the year. And that all got shut down. So I never had a student teacher before. So when he asked if he could do the student teaching with me, I was, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So that's been cool. Like, so on those quiet times when office hours, when there's no one coming on office hours, and I don't, it doesn't bother me at all when there's no one coming on. If I'm like today, I had no one jump in. Maybe you did. I just didn't hear it. I apologize. But we've been, we talk and we compare different things. And since the college baseball season has started, we put on the projector, we put on a baseball game on ESPN. So there's always a ball game on. But that's been good, because it's not quiet in my room.
You said that you're getting the vaccine tomorrow. So how do you
Yeah.
feel about that?
I'm getting my second dose, and the first dose, I'm happy, because me getting this in the long run will get to that point where you're saying, where I could sit in my, we saw my, my parents for my sister's birthday this past weekend. And the conversation was, I've gotten everyone who came, and there was like 12 people there. We all hung out outside, and everyone's like, I'm okay, I got my second shot. So it's almost like it's a badge of honor. Like it's like the opposite of the Scarlet Letter. Like Scarlet Letter was like, it was bad. Like if you have, I got my vaccine, and it means that like, like Mr. Folks and I can sit in a room, and we can, because the CDC says if two people are vaccinated, we could sit in a classroom together and take, like I could take my mask off. If we had this interview in 2 weeks from now, I could be doing without the mask, but it might be better for the film. So that kind of thing. So I'm excited about that. I've heard some mixed reviews about the second shot, so I'm a little worried about the after effects. I was just told to drink a lot of water and Gatorade and take Tylenol if you start to feel, the last one after my first, I just felt foggy. I had a headache, so we will see.
My dad actually just got his second shot, and my mom
Yeah.
has had her too. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully that means that it's coming to an end.
Yes. Now, have they talked to you about you getting a vaccine?
Yeah, now it's available for 16-year-olds and like 16 to 21, I think.
Yeah.
So I signed up. I think I'm gonna get it in like 2 weeks or something.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. That's great. See, like we haven't done that for my son yet. So I don't know, like, and that's a conversation we just haven't had yet. We haven't, that's something that my wife and I, we're not opposed to. We're not forcing it. Like we have to have the conversation about, like, the more people can get vaccinated, it's good. It's a good thing.
And I'm a little bit scared to get it, but I want to because this summer I want to travel, and like
Yeah,
dad just like feels more comfortable me having a vaccine before we
of
travel.
course. Yeah, if you want to travel, if you want to go places, you're going to need it. It's almost like a driver's license. Can I see your vaccination card, right? It's kind of the same passport, vaccination card.
Okay, that's all my questions. So thank you.
Awesome. This is great. I appreciate you asking. This is kind of cool. So,
And I'll send you. I'll send you your individual interview, but then I'm also gonna put them all together to make one big like documentary thing. So
awesome. Very cool. Don't chop my words up to make me seem like
I
I'm
won't. Don't
all
worry.
bad things.
Don't worry. I would never do that. And
Okay.
you can look at my other interviews from last year, and
Yeah.
I won't do that.
I did. You did a few during the shutdown, and I was very impressed with them.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, all right, Sophia, that's it.
Yep, that's it. Thank
Okay.
you.
I wish, like, all the other like documentaries I've watched, like people have sat, like you're sitting in a chair, like it was like it ends with me, the person always taking the microphone off. Like, all right, that's it, we're done. Like, I wish I had a microphone to take off or something like that. But
Well,
this will do. Here, I'll take the mask off. Right.